Welcome to Breaking Initiative. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are on Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and probably search it in any podcast app you use, and we might be there. So do that. That'll be awesome. My name is Brett.
And I'm Rob. This is the show where we break down our own tips and tricks to help you get the most out of your tabletop games. We share some of our favorite tools from around the community, discuss our past experiences, as well as new things currently happening in the hobby. And we are on the third video in our video series that wasn't intended to be a video series that was never meant to be, in which we ambitiously decided to talk about every single class of Dungeons and Dragons, and it took so long, it ended up being. I'm calling it. I think this is going to be it. I think this is going to be the final video. We'll see.
Final one.
No.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to drop the fat beats, yo. Like El Nino. Okay. Yes, we should be able to get through this. We'll be fine. We'll
Just gotta stay focused.
So, anyways, going to stay focused. Yep, the pros and cons of each class, and we are going to start, Rob, with Rogue. Hit me with the first one. Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
I think that Rogue is the class that speaks the most to the most amount of players, because it speaks to the kind of person that wants to play that sort of archetype of like the person, they're playing Skyrim or Elder Scrolls or something, and they're the one they pick the stealthy guy that's gonna just sneak in, steal, get what he wants done without the other person, the enemy, knowing that they did it, and get out.
Assassin's Creed,
yeah, but also
literally there's an assassin rogue.
It also speaks to the kind of role player because of the amount of expertise you could put in, like a actual a skill of yours that is more charisma based. Being able to just talk your way through a situation. It is almost like it's the class that's designed to try the hardest to get around traps, regardless of obstacles that the DM puts in front of the party. Whereas everyone else is mostly about how are you going to get through combat, how are you going to resolve these situations. This one's like, we have these barriers that the DM has put in front of us. I can sneak past him, I can disable the traps, I can smooth talk my way through this, and I don't need any magic to do it. It's all super simple, no spell lists, focused. And also, oh, by the way, I also always deal an extra die of damage with everything I do, because I never attack anybody unless I'm going to do that extra damage. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Oh no, they don't get 2 attacks. You just get to roll a lot more dice.
Yeah.
Right? I never pick I'm going to tell you this. I never pick a rogue. I mean, I eventually will. I just feel like it's cheating. That's just me. Me.
It all balances out, they say.
It does. Actually, rogues are super strong in the beginning, and they become pretty good towards the end. Other classes get better at the end. They're just very strong up front, so I feel like it's cheating because that's what you pick up front. It's not cheating. By the way, that is not. I don't think being a rogue is cheating. Whenever I'm sitting down, what do I want to be? I just think rogues are really strong up front. I don't know. Is that cheating? That's always what happens in my head. So that's on me. Right. Rogues, really good. Literally everything. Half.
They're good at specific things. Unlike the bard that's good at everything. These are good at specific, hyper-focused things.
Jack of all trades? Is that from bard?
That's a bard thing. Yeah.
Okay, what is rogues? I thought rogues don't get something
they get more expertise.
They get more expertise.
Yeah, so...
But if you... No. But then eventually they get the automatic 10 in certain things too.
Yes.
Which super helps.
Reliable talent, yeah.
That always helps. And some would say certain opinions, like Arcane Trickster is one of the best rogues to be. If you don't go charisma and you decide to throw that stat into intelligence and you become an Arcane Trickster, how cool is that to where you are rogue, you're rogue plus a little bit of spell casting. I don't want to say wizard because you are picking from the wizard, but spell casting. You get to add a little bit of extra tricks to that, which I think is kind of cool.
Very versatile class, absolutely.
very versatile.
Yeah.
Can you do it? The answer most likely is probably. Most likely. You probably can, you know. If you don't do the charisma, you can throw it in intelligence to be an arcane trickster. Because that's the cool thing about a rogue. Really, you don't need strength. High dexterity, throw, second thing in constitution, and then pick charisma or intelligence. If you want to be charismatic, you could be charismatic. Or do you want to go arcane trickster and then throw it in intelligence? That's your three things to pick from, which I think is really cool because everything else kind of throws you into like, you should pick these first two things and then charisma for sure. Rogue is like, you for sure need dexterity. Everybody needs constitution. What do you want to throw it in? What mind thing do you want to throw it in there? I mean, I doubt you'd throw it in wisdom. You could for whatever reason. You could pick up a story with it, but the charismatic side, you get to specifically be the voice if you want to, and then also intelligence. So the negatives of a rogue. What are the negatives of a rogue?
Are there
Rob?
negatives to a rogue? This was the one I was wondering about. Is there a con to rogue? Less hit points for sure. Less armor.
You're a little squishier.
Ones.
Yeah. Yep. Leather armor. I think your proficiency in leather armor.
Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's okay. Less hit points. I would actually say kind of a con is like, I don't know, like you can do everything. So like I mean in a weird way, if you're playing with a certain group based off your group, I mean it could be a con the fact that like, hey man, this is your show all the time. Kind of just want you to do everything. If you're playing that kind of party where it's like, hey, there's only one person that's experienced and nobody else isn't experienced, and then you play a rogue, cool, you're going to be able to get everything done. You're not going to force the other players to get better and do things because you can do everything.
Yeah, scouting ahead to make sure they don't get hit.
I'm trying to find negatives, guys. I don't have any. There really isn't. But that could be a negative in a way. But I'm pretty much, there just isn't. We can
He's
move
the guy
on.
that comes up to the job interview and says, is being too good? Would you say that could be my biggest flaw?
Right.
Yeah. Right. We can spend
You might be a douche. You just might be a jerk at the table if you're a rogue. No, that's not true.
And also their limitation on which weapons they can use, which is probably why they get their big bonus to damage on sneak attacks. They can't use... great swords or anything like that. Get it? It has to be small blades and things like that to get it. And ranged attacks, which is probably where they're going to get their biggest ones, if they wanted to go that route for sneak attack.
Can they use a longbow?
These are fantastic questions.
Just a short bow. I think it's just short bow, hand crossbow.
Short bows out of the gate, yeah. So you'd have to dip into something to get long bows.
Right. Right. So, yeah. Okay. Next, there's our opinion on Rogue. Sorcerer. Mm-hmm. By the way, I think I figured out your other thing that like you kind of have to.
Oh yeah, you know it's coming up, don't you?
I do know it's coming
obvious.
up. Yes, because it is obvious now. Yes, it was obvious before too in the past video. Right. And just a little catch you guys up. There are 3 classes in this that we're like, you kind of got to play this route or be very creative not to play this route.
Yeah.
And I think the one that's coming
up
that Rob's
for
thinking
them in
of.
the backstory. I wouldn't say it's Sorcerer. It's not Sorcerer, which is the one we're going to talk about next.
It's not Sorcerer. So go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, so Sorcerer, this one actually gives you a lot of freedom. I proposed an interesting idea with Druid before where certain people in society maybe have this innate ability to be a druid, but wouldn't you know it, if we're actually going by the real rules of Dungeons and Dragons, that really describes a sorcerer, doesn't it? Somebody who's born innately with some powers.
Yep.
And I think this is a really interesting idea because there's this sort of storytelling technique, right? The hero's journey, and one of those is those steps in that classic storytelling arc is the rejection of your power, or the rejection of your call to action. You're like, no, send someone back. But you can also always wrap that up in a sorcerer, because they didn't really have the choice. This power was kind of thrust on them. So you can really make this sort of classic archetypal hero character that I think a lot of people overlook. They see it as more like, okay, so this is, you're looking at it mechanically as a wizard that does, that's more focused on specific spells and being able to cast those specific spells, and less versatile with spell casting. But no, so I think that the biggest pro is a lot of the versatility and your choice of which bloodline you pick. You get it at first level, which is neat, because I like to play games that start at first level. So getting your just like with cleric, getting your class path at first level is just neat to me. And biggest con, besides what we're gonna say for wizard as well, is they got a low hit dice. D6 is not very much, and since they also don't have armor, and where was I going to get at? Charisma based, which is nice, because a lot of skills would go into charisma based characters. We talked about a sorcerer that's no, he's a warlock. Yeah, warlock also does charisma based. Warlock and sorcerer both will have this benefit of, okay, you can be a sort of charismatic character and dip into that. I think that's really where it ends, and that's where it sort of branches off into the creativity of the player and whichever path they pick.
Yeah, my take on sorcerer, it's in a weird way. I think it's all of most of the good parts of a wizard. A wizard, you have a lot of choices to go through. If you want to be like, I want to be a wizard, but I don't know if I want to think of that much stuff, sorcerer might be your best bet. It's still difficult. Again, all of these things that are tons of spell casting, and you have a list of spells, for new players, unless you really want to dive into it, you're going to be reading a lot at the table. If not, you're going to have to do your homework. Like sitting down and go, okay, what does what? So whenever you get to the table, your turn can go fast. But as a sorcerer, same thing all the way back to a bard. You have a spell list. Most times your actions will be casting a spell. So you're going to have to read ahead. What spell am I going to do? You're going to have a lot there. So the negatives of it can be the fact if you're brand new and you don't know anything, and somebody's like, you got dragon blood in you, buddy. You're a sorcerer. So that can be tough, because you're going to have to read through your spells, and definitely want to make sure that you created your character. That'll be helpful as long as you created your character to help out with that. But still, whenever I played a sorcerer and whenever I played a bard, it was hard for me to stay engaged at the table as much, because I knew when my turn was coming up, I wanted to be ready. I didn't want to slow people down, and because I didn't want to slow people down, I was half paying attention to what's happening while I'm kind of tapping in and reading ahead of, okay, what am I thinking about doing? Oh, this has happened. All right, what's this? Oh, now they're already moved on. That's the thing with the sorcerer for sure. You're going to have a lot of options to do things. With a lot of options, how's your attention going to be at the table? So look at that. That is, I think, a negative. For sure, that's a negative with all the big spellcasters. The cool thing about them is you get to do a bunch of crazy stuff. That's just as a whole with spellcasters. Sorcerers, the positive and the thing I love about them is the meta magic. That's like their thing, their little pool of things that they can do, extra special things that make them different from wizards. You can literally cast 2 spells, any spell and any cantrip, whether it's a bonus action or not, with Quicken Spell. You could twin spell Fireball, throw 2 of them. You can't choose 2 different kinds of spells, but you can twin spell Fireball. You could be a big heavy hitter with a sorcerer and hit a lot of people. Do pretty good damage. I mean, Fireball does pretty good damage. There's ways to do big damage as well. The pros of a sorcerer is you're very versatile, and you could have a lot of fun, and you're going to probably somewhere in your campaign you're going to have one key spell that you cast that is like, oh, that was awesome.
You really got to think about your spell choice when you're picking your spells for sorcerer. You don't get to swap them out very much. No, it's funny that I'd forgotten to mention the meta magic as a pro, because that's the thing. And I also
Right.
forgot to use metamagic in our Sub-Zero versus Elsa video before as well. I just always
Did
forget
you?
about it. Yeah, I like completely forgot about it. I don't. We did
I forgot the first time we recorded it.
Oh, that's right. We did a few
like,
takes. Maybe the one that actually I can't even remember now. It's all just as
Okay, I know.
Anyway,
I know. That
Sorcerer.
was
Yeah, it's fun. And it's neat that it writes you into the story of how you got your powers without also locking
You just
you down.
have it.
Yeah, it doesn't lock
Yeah.
you down RP wise into, but you got it from this thing. It's
Sure.
a mystery. It's written in as a mystery. You don't even have to explain it. You were born on a stormy day, and now you got storm powers. Now tell us the rest of the interesting things about you that can go in any direction you want.
Yep. You can
like
go
it.
the Harry Potter route, and you just have it, because Harry Potter obviously is a sorcerer. He's not a wizard.
Right.
And
to go.
and then yeah, or or you can go the royalty route, like, oh, I just have it's in my blood, I'm special, which
Right.
there are some
That's actually
people
a really good
I've
idea.
listened to online. It's great, it's funny, you know what I mean. You could go many different routes with it. It's very creative.
Unlike-
I think that's good.
The next one we're going to talk about.
Which I believe is your.
It
you kind of
is.
got to stick to this. It goes into a lot of campaigns that have a warlock. You got to tackle the patron. Somehow it comes up, and somehow it's an arc, somehow it's a plot, somehow it's something slightly in there.
This is the most controversial thing I'm going to say out of this trilogy.
Love it.
That
Love it.
possibly
Bring it
will
on.
be a quadrilogy. We don't know yet.
No, we're almost done.
I don't like warlocks. It's like the
You-
most popular class.
How dare-
I don't like playing them. I like the people that play them. Don't get me wrong. Sorry, Gavin. I like you, and I like your character. The mechanics of the warlock. I don't like it. It's my least favorite.
How dare you?
So-
You're literally the worst human being
People watching
that
this
I've
are
ever
very
heard.
few
How can you
fans
not
that
like
we
a
have.
warlock?
There's probably like
Yeah.
five people, which would be half of our viewers, have now just
Right.
unsubscribed because of my hot take.
Immediately. You don't like Warlock. So, fun fact, Rob's a jerk. No. Okay, what? Go ahead, hit me.
Okay.
Yeah, hit me with the stuff.
I find that-
give me the pros, give me the cons. Do all of it. Go.
I like that they have a little more armor. I like the interesting mechanics that they have for spell casting involving you always cast at this level that increases up, and the interesting way they handle it to make it not just a third spellcaster. However, for some reason, new players always find themselves going into Warlock because it seems the coolest, edgiest sort of, oh, look at all this cool stuff. It's the most complicated to start up because there's like 3 different mechanics that you get at like the first level that you've got to cipher through to decide between invocations, patrons, and all this other stuff. You've got to like really customize your character, which is a neat thing. That's a plus. I hate explaining it to new players because they just don't get it, and
Right.
they think that they have to do things a certain way, and I'm trying to tell them they don't. And if you're doing a role playing, like a heavy role playing game, you're really locked in what you pick. So, I mean, I could
Yeah.
go through every one of the patrons, which is the big class path for it.
You don't have to. You don't have
Right,
to,
but I mean, Archfey, Celestial, Fathomless, all of these are some sort of being that is something that you are written into, is not necessarily having some sort of reverence for. I admit, there's a lot of ways you can handle the mechanic, but at the end of the day, you either found some ancient book or you, it's heavily written into the backstory already.
You made a deal with the devil.
Or
Somehow you made a deal with something big.
it is
or
a deal
yeah.
you made either willingly or not with something.
Or willingly or
and
not.
The worst I think of
Yeah.
all is at least as far as that, because I love this subclass for patron, is the genie, but it's the most heavily written into it because it's almost spelled out that you had direct contact with this being, and you serve them, and you owe them stuff on a regular basis. It's just I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But
No, I actually think it's one of the I don't disagree with you to a lot of
Okay.
points in the idea of a beginner character that is probably one of the worst places to go to, because if you are, it's not just, I just want to sit down and kind of figure it out. No, as a warlock, the DM knows you're a warlock. It's very easy for the whole story and everything, especially if they want to get you involved, they're going to go right to what you've chosen. As the DM's going to go to what you chose, and then it's like, all right, well, your patron's doing this. Start doing it. That sounds very like railroady in some sort of way, but it definitely sets up to where it's like, honestly, new players, I would stay away from it. I would think going heavy into Sorcerer, Bard would be easier than a Warlock, because you just pick spells and then you got to read. Compared to, I don't want to say you're kind of hand-feeding or forcing the DM at some point, but at some point your DM, unless if you are really highly inactive and really depending on the game, it's going to be it's going to come up. I mean, it came up even in Critical Role. Here's the cool thing is, actually, so here's one of my favorite Warlocks.
All right.
And it's not Ford. It's not Ford. She is a brand new player, completely out redoing everything. She has no idea how to play. But her role playing that she's doing this, it is the lady that plays, it's in, you're going to fix it for me, guys. It's the new Critical Role, Unlimited, Exandria Unlimited. Opal. It's the girl that plays Opal. She plays a Warlock. She has no idea how to play. Like, she is not good at the mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons very well. She's okay. To be honest with you, she's brand new. She was an actor. She's doing great as it is. But there's a lot of things that she just doesn't know. There's a lot of, and part of it is a lot really fun because of her being an actor. She actually plays into it very well, and her character naturally is somebody who's already like, I don't want to use a word, like airheaded. She's not airheaded. What's the word? Like,
ditzy.
She's ditzy, but like she's almost has a Paris Hilton makes me think of that. Like, it makes me think of like the whole Paris Hilton kind of feel, like vibe of like, oh yeah, oh this is just what I do. Oh yeah, oh that's cute. Like I don't know what I'm saying, but she's very like naive. I guess naive would be the idea. And so, and the way that she's playing her character is the fact that like her patron is her sister stuck in her body. And her sister's giving her powers. I don't know how yet. Don't know how the story's going.
Right.
The role play of it is hilarious. It's deep. I've teared up, over this. She doesn't know how to play D&D very well, but she's very good. It's very entertaining, and that's kind of the point. So, I say all that. My pros and cons of a Warlock, really quick. Pros, you have your select spells and they're automatically cast at a certain level. Done. You're always doing basically Eldritch Blast. It's kind of forced you. Cons, your backstory is forced into is most likely forced into the story. Absolutely, somebody could be like, no, man, didn't even touch their backstory in a campaign. Sure, that's fine. All the ones that I've played in came in there somehow.
Yeah,
it came in
eventually.
Somehow. It's somewhere in the background. What's that?
I said, yeah, they creep in through the cracks, and next thing you know,
they do.
You're like
they
20
do.
missions in, and you've got it, and I can feel the tension. I'm like, I gotta do something with this guy's patron.
Another pro, they're actually very utility-like.
Yeah,
they do have some utility stuff too, as well.
Yeah.
For sure with their things.
Eldritch Invocations for sure. That's the coolest part. Eldritch Invocations. That's really awesome. The idea that sometimes you can just either empower your one spell to be even better than it was, or just do a spell infinitely that's not a cantrip because you're so innately good at it, because your power is so intrinsic to what you were given, like as a gift. I think that's what they originally were back in 3rd edition when they were first really truly conceived in their current form, is that they didn't have spell slots. They just cast stuff infinitely. They get like 3 spells or 4 spells, and by the time you got to like the final level, you'd have like 6 or 8 spells. They were called invocations. And I like the way that they handle it now. I just find everybody playing Hexblade. I don't know, man. Like I've had I'd say half of them have been
100%.
Hexblade, just because they just like, I want to be the Warlock because it's a cool class and I want to have a cool weapon. That is my
spellcasting
thing.
a sword.
Yeah,
Spellcasting a sword. So I'm just gonna go Hexblade. I don't understand.
It happens a lot.
If I didn't want it to be something else, I'd just be a wizard or a sorcerer.
I will
Obviously,
say, since I've made such a big point about it, I have to apologize and recognize that there is a lot of people that love, and I've even heard like big D&D people saying they love these kinds of classes that have the story already written into them, because it inserts them into the campaign in a way that can be easily utilized by the DM. That's what they say.
I think we get what you're saying to the idea of the force. You know, Ford in Critical Role campaign 2, his arc was really awesome. I still want to know what happens with Ukatoa. Like, I want to know. You know what I mean? Like, there's going to be probably one-shots later on about things like that and these kind of things. So it's like, I don't know. It's still out there. You know what I mean? So it's definitely really cool. The negative is the fact that, like, it is there. It is present. There's nothing you can. It's not a lot you can do about it because it's easy. It's easy. And D&D is really difficult, and a lot of brain matter, things like that go into it. And it's just like, here's an alley-oop. You know what I mean? If you guys know basketball,
as little as it
it's
makes
just right
sense.
there. It's right there by the rim. Yeah. Why would you not put it in? And it kind of is forceful.
And as little as it makes sense, some of my favorite characters that have been players in my campaigns played Warlocks. I can't explain it. My least favorite class and my favorite characters. I don't know how it happens, but somebody else play it. Next is Wizard.
The Wizard, Harry.
Yes.
Hit me with your best shot. I'm not going to do the whole time in a really bad German accent.
Stop.
So bad.
You got that German viewer, man. You can't do that.
I'm so sorry. That's right. No, I can't.
No,
I'm sorry.
That was pretty good.
Wizard. No, it was not good, Rob. Don't say it was good because now he's offended.
I was trying to give you an out. Wizard.
No, make me the bad guy.
Rogues are to the versatility of the melee class what Wizard is to the versatility of the spellcaster class. Horrible HP, but they have so many spells that they can learn and prepare, like from their own unique list, like a cleric or druid or someone would be able to pull from their entire list. So they're a little limited in that sense. They can't just pull from any spell like the other classes can. What they prepare from their list that can expand infinitely as they find spell books and craft it down and actually use these scrolls for something that keep popping up in the loot that everyone ignores, and they that cleverness, and also being the first full class that was centered around intelligence, is something that lends to a very unique feel for the spellcaster. It's my favorite spellcaster, wizard, for this reason, because I like the ones that allow you to think really creatively for solutions.
Yeah.
You get a sort of a toolbox that when you know what situation you're going into, you prepare these things, you bring it in. Now you got the knock spell. Now you got, who gets rid of fireball? That's always on your spell list. You get all these things that just solve your problems, but you have to think about it creatively and really use it to alter the world around you. Really just the hit points, and that's pretty much the only negative I can think of off the top of my head about them, because they really go in a lot of different directions with their schools, and their arcane focuses and stuff, with their class features and stuff. Yeah,
I'll start with the negatives. My negatives for a wizard is just the complication of it all. There's so much you can do.
Yes.
I love the idea of going into it. I love the idea that it helps with loot. So like when a DM, because whenever I DM and there's a wizard, I'm like, if I want to, I could just throw a spell in here. Boom, you got this spell. Like, rather than like a sorcerer, a warlock, it's like, especially if you're a hexblade warlock, it's already connected to your weapon. Like, I don't know what to give you, man. I don't know what I can give you. A ranger or somebody that uses a bow, I know what I can give you. You use a sword, I know what I can give you. You're a wizard, they're another person. I know what I can give you. I can give you, a scroll, some spell that you can learn. Cool. The negatives of it is the fact of the difficulty. It's probably the most difficult class. Probably, I would say. I would say it's the most difficult class in the idea of watch Caleb, watch Liam. Whenever he plays Caleb on Critical Role, I'll reference it all the time because why not? You guys watch it. He's reading a lot of the time. He does his homework. He is a great role player. He's really good during action, during like combat. He's reading a lot of times. So if you're not pretty good at multi-classing and multitasking, right. Where you can listen to what's going on while you're reading on what spell you want to do because what's happening, that's going to be really tough. That's going to be really tough. I would say Wizard is probably more for the experienced person, or I say the experienced person, or the person that wants to be the wizard and that is like, I am gung-ho for Dungeons and Dragons. I want to play right now. I've been hearing about it and I've finally gotten to a table. I want to be a wizard. I don't care what you tell me. That person is going to figure it out. They're going to love it. They're going to be into it. You only get so many levels you only get so many spells at level 1 and you'll slowly grow. If you're a brand new player and you just sat down and they're like, hey, here's a sheet. All right, we're playing in 10 minutes. You're going to be like, what the heck am I looking at? Right. That's going to be a problem. I think they're the most difficult to that level.
Yeah. I think that I got into it really easy because I was brought into it from the other editions, that when I fell in the 5th edition finally, it just still made sense and it simplified a lot of things. From 3rd edition and Pathfinder-esque kind of D20 settings. And I guess that my advice is, despite what we even said about Sorcerer earlier being difficult for new players, it's easier. What I hear for new players,
Sorcerers are easier than Wizard.
Yeah.
Wizard.
And you get your cool...
That's what I would say.
Yeah. That's a very fair point. I think we could squeeze in Artificer. We got one more class to do.
We could squeeze in Artificer. Well, let's go. Was I done with the Wizard? I would just say I did a campaign with my in-laws that I quickly printed out their stuff. I specifically stayed away from Wizard for that purpose. Yeah. I wasn't just going to hand them papers, and then let them play. That's what it is. All right, Artificer. What you got? I'm going to bank a lot on you on this one. I only know so much. I didn't go through campaign 1 of Critical Role where somebody becomes an Artificer. I won't even say or spoil it.
I like Artificer a lot. I'd say it's like my 4th or 5th favorite class. It's a great addition.
I was just about to wrap up the show. I like Artificer a lot. That's it, everybody out here.
No,
like and subscribe, YouTube. Blah, blah, blah.
I like that it has a very unique answer to a question that is in every D&D campaign, which is, where do magic items come from? They come from people like this, especially the weird advanced ones, like probably Dorn's fortress or whatever, the thing you throw on the ground. I could see that be like some sort of highly advanced NPC Artificer being like the mastermind behind it. It doesn't fit into every campaign. It would be the biggest glaring flaw in it, in that it actually has had its place in a lot of the European fantasy stuff, but people haven't noticed. The dwarves from Norse mythology would be the earliest example I can think of. They're trying to harken back to that sort of, we have the ability to manipulate the craft of things through magic, and do things that even in the Norse setting even the gods can't do. They marvel at the artificers of the dwarves and stuff. But as a character, it's really neat because you're sort of like this utility person. It's not a full caster, but it's another intelligence-based one, which I always like because I think there needs to be more of that. It's the idea of just making these neat little knickknacks and items that you can give to people. You could make a bag of holding when you need it. You could make any of these things. Certain limitations for how many you can make, but you can just sort of craft things when you need it. I like that type of character, and my favorite subclass of them is the out of all the ones that I've made, I like the one that is the alchemist, which is I find everyone else's least favorite one. Everyone seems to like armorer and artillerist, and I hear a lot of people like battlesmith. But
Right.
I like the idea of like somebody who's like crafting these potions and throwing. Maybe I just like a sort of scientist-esque type that isn't necessarily a mechanic,
Right.
but he's more like
Probably a crazy guy with crazy hair.
Yeah, maybe if you want to play into the stereotype, which I love to play at the stereotype sometimes.
Yeah, right, I know.
Maybe
They're
it could be
fun.
a lizard folk, who just like he's just like some sort of like voodoo doctor or whatever, but he's crafting all this stuff and he's
Right.
like figuring out ways to improve upon it, and he's adding all this. So he focuses more on like that kind of stuff, or like some crazy what do you call it, myconid, like those mushroom people, right? He's just experimenting with all sorts of different spores and stuff. I like that idea, and then he just attacks with that, buffs and things like that. But I also really like the artillerist, the idea that he just throws down like a freaking turret and just blasts somebody with it.
Yeah.
They're all awesome, and they even delve into like heavy armor, and so they're a good tanky class. It filled a missing niche, I feel, in the whole pantheon of classes that we just talked about. It's a nice addition. Comes from Eberron, but I think a lot of DMs might not like it for their campaign because it kind of breaks that classic fantasy feel in most cases. But
I mean,
who cares? I like
if
that
you
feeling.
if you have a gunslinger, what's that much different to go to an artificer?
A lot of people don't
You know what I mean?
allow gunslingers in their campaigns because they don't
I
want
know,
to have
I
firearms.
know,
It's
I
if
know.
you have firearms, you got artificers. That's a good. And they even
Yeah.
come built in saying, by the way, if you have firearms in your campaign, artificers are proficient in it no matter what.
Yeah, so I don't know a lot about it. That's why I've been quiet this whole time. I haven't really dove
Yeah,
into it.
I
I've seen
remember.
videos about it,
Yeah.
and then I was like, don't really know that much about them. I didn't really look into them. The one thing with the little bit that I do look into it is I'm not like I saw a lot of homework in front of me, and so I decided I was like, I'm not gonna look into that yet. Just haven't even done it. So I see the difficulty. I see that, I don't know if it's like to the realm of wizard, to the realm of sorcerer. I feel like it's a lot of working with the DM, and that can be tricky if you're not talkative. Like if you don't like to talk to the DM, or they might just tell you no. Hey, I want to do this. So they're like, no, that's too OP right now. You can't do that, and that hurts your feelings, which is a thing. That means that can be a difficult character to play, I feel like, because you have to constantly be in communication outside the game of the DM in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get let down. Kind of also happens with the gunslinger, too. I know Nick, our character with the gunslinger, he's like, I want to build this gun now. Our DM's like, no, you cannot have that now. You could start now, and then basically you'll get it in 3 or 4 levels.
Thankfully, the artificer
it's
has
roughly
built
more
in
even.
to the rules some things they can build, so the DM can't actually
Right.
say no to everything. But when you get to the crazier ideas, like I'd like to build a trebuchet or something like that, or I'd like to, taking some more like maybe using the forge, fabricate spell and stuff like that.
Right.
And then trying to use some of your powers with it to like modify certain things. That's when it could.
Yeah.
That's when you get some territory. It takes how creative the DM wants to be with your ability to artifice or not. I suppose how much you want to take liberties with it. But you can have a lot of fun with it, especially customizing what your little things look like. What?
Me personally, as a DM, I will do whatever you want to put in the campaign. I'm just going to level it up. I was planning on this combat, but you guys wanted this, and this, and I said yes to that. Cool. Now in this combat, there's going to be some extra things because I gave you extra things. I'm going to do my best to make the difficulty of what I want to make it. So if you start OPing, I will then all of a sudden not make you OP. Listen, there's always 2 Tarasques hanging around. You have no idea when that's going to happen. 2 of them, Brett. I heard the lore is only supposed to be 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Not in my world.
Anyways, not in my world. There's just, if you want to keep powering up, fine. You want to become a god? I'm going to have other gods fight you all the time.
All right. So we hit the end.
We're at 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I said
I thought we were going to
end.
be under 30. I thought we were going to be under 30. Well, hold on. 40 on the recording. This is not going to be 40 minutes.
We'll call that the bonus artificer time. We gave you some bonus artificer time. You're welcome.
Bonus artificer time. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you for being patient with us. You got through all 3 of these. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you just skipped the right the one you wanted to. Whatever. That's fine. Go to the one you want. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Some of my neck? No. Okay. Like, subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Play. What's the other one? Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. And search us and whatever podcast app you're using. We might just be in there anyways. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next one.
Yep. Check out our other videos. See you when we see you.